I pulled into the valet circle of the glass and steel monolith on Fifth Avenue, my old truck coughing a cloud of black smoke that definitely didn't match the Ferraris idling nearby. I was wearing my project clothes, a grease-stained hoodie, jeans with a hole in the left knee, and boots that had seen more mud than pavement. I had been under a sink for 6 hours fixing a burst pipe at my mom's place, and I was exhausted. But my phone had been blowing up for 20 minutes. It was my lead architect, Marcus. He sounded like he was having a literal heart attack. He said, "Leo, the investors are pulling out. They're in the penthouse right now, and if you aren't here in 10 minutes to sign the structural release, the whole billion-dollar project goes belly up." I didn't have time to go home. I didn't even have time to wipe the streak of copper dust off my forehead. I hopped out of the truck, grabbed my beat-up leather satchel, and headed for the rotating glass doors. I didn't even get 5 feet inside before a hand the size of a dinner plate slammed against my chest. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold it right there, buddy," a voice boomed. I looked up. The guy was built like a linebacker, wearing a navy tactical vest with elite security plastered across it in gold letters. His name tag said Officer Briggs. He looked at my boots, then my hoodie, and his lip curled like he was smelling spoiled milk. "Deliveries are around the back, pal," Briggs said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Service entrance. Go on, move it." I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not a delivery driver. I have a meeting in the penthouse. It's urgent." Briggs let out a short, bark-like laugh. He turned to his partner, a younger guy who was leaning against the marble desk. "You hear that, Miller? This guy has a meeting in the penthouse." "What, is the CEO suddenly hiring guys to scrounge for spare change in the boardroom?" The younger guard chuckled, shaking his head. "Look, Officer Briggs," I said, stepping forward. "My name is Leo Vance. I'm expected. Just call up to Marcus Thorne's office. He'll clear this up in 2 seconds." Briggs's face went stone cold. He stepped into my personal space, using his height to try and intimidate me. "Listen to me, Leo. We had a vagrant try to sneak in here yesterday pretending to be a window washer. I'm not falling for the casual billionaire act today. You look like you just crawled out of a sewer. Now, you can turn around and walk out those doors, or I can escort you out in handcuffs for trespassing. Your choice." At that exact moment, a group of suit-and-tie executives walked past us toward the elevators. They stopped, glancing at me with that look of pure, filtered pity. One woman adjusted her pearls and whispered to her colleague, "Why do they even let people like that into the lobby? It's bad for the image." My face burned. I've built half the skyline in this city, but because I wasn't wearing a $3,000 suit, I was invisible. I was less than invisible. I was a nuisance. "Check your tablet," I said, my voice dropping an octave. "Check the 9 a.m. authorization list for the penthouse suite." Briggs sighed, like I was wasting his precious time. He tapped his screen a few times. His finger stopped. He squinted. "There's a Mr. Vance on here, but it says principal owner. You're telling me you are the guy who owns the dirt this building is sitting on?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you." He looked at my grease-stained sleeves and laughed again. Louder this time. "Right, and I'm the King of England. Out, now." He grabbed my shoulder. It wasn't a gentle nudge, it was a shove. He marched me back through the rotating doors and literally pushed me onto the sidewalk. "Stay on the street, Leo," he sneered. "Try the soup kitchen on 4th. They like stories there." I stood on the sidewalk for a solid 30 seconds. The cool morning air hitting my face. I could have screamed. I could have kicked his teeth in. Instead, I walked back to my truck. I reached into the back seat and pulled out my emergency kit. I used a whole pack of industrial wet wipes to scrub the grease off my face and hands. I pulled off the hoodie, revealing a crisp white undershirt. I reached into a garment bag I kept for fancy dinners and pulled out a charcoal gray tailored blazer. I swapped my muddy boots for leather loafers I kept in the glove box. I grabbed my iPad and my gold-plated fountain pen. I didn't look like a plumber anymore. I looked like the man who signs the checks. When I walked back in 2 minutes later, Briggs was leaning against the desk, looking smug. He started to open his mouth to bark at me again. Then he froze. He looked at my face, then the blazer, then the watch on my wrist that cost more than his annual salary. I didn't wait for him to speak. I walked straight up to him and held out my digital ID. "Officer Briggs," I said, my voice calm and terrifyingly sharp. "I believe you were looking for the principal owner?" He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stared at the ID. His face went from tan to a ghostly, sickly gray. "Mr. Vance, I was following the new security protocol," the supervisor said. "The supervisor told you to keep the building safe," I interrupted. "He didn't tell you to forget how to be a human being. Which floor is the penthouse?" "52, sir," he whispered, his voice cracking. I walked to the elevator. The doors opened, and the same woman with the pearls was inside. She looked at me, blinked, and actually moved aside to give me room, smiling warmly. I didn't smile back. When the doors opened on the 52nd floor, Marcus ran over. "Leo, thank God, we're ready for you." I walked into the boardroom. 12 men in suits stood up. I sat at the head of the table, signed the release forms in 30 seconds, and then turned to the head of building operations. "Everything okay, Leo?" he asked, noticing my expression. "The building is fine," I said, leaning back, "but we're going to need a new security firm. And tell the man at the front desk, Officer Briggs, that next time he meets a vagrant, he might want to remember that the man under the hoodie is the one who pays for his uniform." The room went silent. I walked out 5 minutes later. Briggs was still there, standing by the door like a statue. As I passed him, I didn't stop. I just said, "Have a nice day, officer. I hear the soup kitchen on 4th is looking for a new security guard." I climbed back into my beat-up truck and drove away. First impressions are everything, but sometimes the second impression is the one that really sticks.